Donathon continues, and this time it's with the only player who has yet to start a run or play at all. It's Nass. We rolled randomly. We actually got CRR. CRR wasn't around. We rolled again. We got Tempo. Tempo was down to play. So it'll be Nass versus Tempo in the first round of this Donathon. So far, his other S-tier 1v1ers have fallen short. Drally and Moxie. Can Nass be the one to do it? Take down the $32 million prize? We will find out after this best of 5 with Tempo starting now. Chat, here we go. It's Nass versus Tempo. It's Tempo's second chance, I believe, at trying to take somebody down in this double or nothing contest we got going on. And it's Nass's first time. He was the last one to be selected, and he's going to start with a little Diaz challenge. A great shot top shelf, but Tempo is going to stop it. Can Nass be the first S-tier player to make it past level 3? Assuming he wants to keep doubling up and run up a prize, can he be the one to do it? Drally was stopped by Juicy, I believe it was. Moxie stopped by Nush. So it's looking like the original S-tiers. Are they incorrect? I'm not so sure they are. Just because you're S-tier doesn't mean you'll never, ever, ever lose to a tier underneath you. It just means you're more than likely to win. And it's going to be tough to win a lot of games in a row, as proven by how the Donathon has gone so far. Later today, we have Atto versus Jorias, which is going to be the first ever level 4 matchup for $500 between the two. It is going to be back to best of 7s for that. And we'll see if Atto goes again for $1,000 or if he's going to stop it there. But for now, best of 5 between Nass and Tempo. It's been a while since we've seen Nass play 1v1. I don't know if he's played on my stream since before EU RLCS last season. I think he did a little bit of warm-up probably before that, and then played with me commentating in the EU RLCS. One that he went into as the favorites when he did play. Since then, I don't think he's been as focused on 1v1. He's gotten a lot better in 3s. Nice air dribble resets into the top right. I think Nass's stock has risen a lot in his 3v3 gameplay. And we've seen this story many times before where a player comes into 1s, dominates in 1s, and then ends up making a mark in 3s. But we've also seen the same thing where the 3 success never really comes. Nass, I would say, has that success. In fact, chat, type what you think Nass is as a 3v3er in terms of S tier, A tier, B tier. I know I've seen tier lists of RLCS players. It's hard to do without being able to look at everybody else. But off the top of your head, where would you put Nass? I think a lot of people are rating him really, really high. Like a player to even build your team off of if you're looking to make a contending RLCS team. I'm seeing mostly A. Some people are saying C, which are haters if you ask me. I think S is probably a bit too high, but I could definitely see him getting put in A. And I would think B would probably just be as low as he could possibly go. I'd have to, compare it to everybody else, especially if you just, think about European region players in terms of, players you pick up to get yourself into a LAN contention. That being said, Tempo has been getting a lot better as well. In fact, everybody has been talking about, as Tempo gets a backboard double, why was Tempo not picked up by one of the bigger teams? That's been a question I've fielded a couple different times on stream. And it's impossible to really know the answer. I think a lot of us see what he's doing in 1s and what he's been able to achieve and see that he's clearly a player on the rise worth taking a risk on. But so much more goes into making a team that we don't really see behind the scenes. And, I hate to say that it's all about connections, but I'm sure at some level you need to have some connection with the other top players. Maybe Tempo a bit more isolated. Maybe he just likes playing with his Danish buddy Edgeby. What a shot from Nush. What a save from Tempo. Nass, oh my goodness. The follow-up was just a bit too high. It goes crossbar down. Tempo makes another save. He's on low boost. Nass going to fake him, flick past him. Really high level 1v1 being played right now. Well, I give the intros. A really strong back and forth between these two. And now a 4-3 lead for Nass. I'm really excited to see RLCS 2v2 as well. We haven't really found out exactly what that's going to look like. But I saw somebody talk about it on Reddit earlier this morning before I started stream. Who do you think has the best chance at winning the Triple Crown? Now, we talked about the, you know, double crown, I guess, of 1s and 3s back when 1s got added. But, you know, we only had one season of just that. So now the new goal is obviously the Triple Crown. Who has the best likelihood to do that? Probably Daniel. And then is Nupo number 2? Is that insane to say? Or Rawas, maybe? A Falcon? Or maybe Drowley? I think some players from the MENA teams. Nice reset fake. And then Tempo goes low. He faked like he was going to take that initial shot. And instead turned his car down and mustied. Nupo probably going to have too tough of a time winning the 3s. I think his TRK Monkey Moon team is good. I don't know if I expect it to be winning the lands. But his TRK Nupo 2's team could definitely be winning. And he already proved he could win in 1s. So Nupo feels like a good chance. Zen, a pretty good chance. Zen's 1s has not been there when I've seen him play in his most recent matches, at least in terms of like World Championship level consistency. His 2s has always been there. Drowley very well could have gotten it. But Nupo looked so above the rest. I mean, I guess with the exception of Rawas, I feel like Rawas might be a good pick. Him, Drowley, and Clears very likely to win a 3s LAN. No one would be surprised at all if that team won a LAN. Presumably it'll be Rawas and Clears duo. When we've seen their 2s play, they have potential, but I wouldn't say they're favorites to win. And then Rawas feels like at any moment he could lock back into 1s and win that. 10. Nass just own gold. Nass just own gold from across the field. Tempo flicked this out ahead and was going to try and shoot, but missed. And Nass shot it for him instead. So 6-6. Nass. Kickoff win. Power shots to the top shelf. Tempo able to stop it, and now Nass stopping back the other way. Is Tempo trying to pre-flip? He is! And I think it's going to get him a goal. What a play from Tempo. I thought maybe he was trying to pre-flip to shoot, but instead, he pre-flipped just to pop it over the top of Nass, who had committed to Tempo missing there. And now it's 6-7 with Tempo in the lead. Nass into the corner. Didn't get the touch towards nets. Tempo will 360 and leave the ball for Nass, who pre-flips, resets, shots, top shelf. Tempo saves it and clears it, and I don't think he's going to get back in order to stop this next goal. 6-8. Game number 1 going to go to Tempo. Tempo had a streak of his own. He played against Vatira, and I think he swept him. Tempo was looking so strong. He swept Vatira, who up until that point was undefeated in the Donathon. He had cashed out once. He had played another round and won. So he had looked really good. And Tempo just slammed him. But then Tempo lost in the very next game in a matchup that I didn't expect him to lose. Was it Reb Mob? Was that the Reb Mob game? I think Reb Mob beat him in order to end his run at just 1 win. And then Reb Mob cashed out. Yeah, he got mobbed. He's been gifted a second chance here at Redemption. And another S tier win would not be a bad way to start it off. But Nass is maybe just getting warmed up. Game number 2. Tempo backing off as he looks to try and get a possession going. Nass gonna have a heavy boost advantage. Wanted the demo, got there too soon. Tempo wasn't there yet. Now Tempo able to pass to himself off the corner, and Nass, I think was trying to put the ball right around where he put it. Not trying to shoot, just trying to keep it where he could get to it next. Tempo was technically the first one there and has a bit of boost left over to go for this shot. Nass didn't believe. I wonder if Nass thought he had a bigger boost advantage than he did. If Tempo is sitting on the ground with almost nothing, then he doesn't have to worry about the shot because it did take just about all 45 boosts to get that strong of a shot. But he did have boost left over, and he's rewarded with a goal. Nass, I don't think was ever living in Morocco. Nass, ever since he's played on my stream, has been living in Belgium, is my understanding. So if he went back or something at some point, maybe I'd be wrong, but Drally has also never played for Morocco. He and his family moved to France, I believe, and he's played from there. That's why he had to be delayed for playing back when he was 15. The rules were that Morocco was not a place you could compete from, so he waited a year instead until his family moved to France. Now I'm not sure if you can or can't compete from there. Tempo, the only one to score in this game so far, and it looks like he's going to get a third. He did get bumped off this one. So Nass going to have time to reset here and dribble out of his back corner. Resets, fake, and he'll let it drop in for his first goal. Tons of movement threatened with this shot here is why Tempo has to believe it. He gets on that far side of the ball, and that shot would just absolutely whip the ball the opposite direction. So Tempo knows he needs to prep for that, and Nass just doesn't have to hit it once he sees the defender move. Drally originally lived in Canada, then moved back to Morocco, was my understanding. He lived in Canada maybe when he was like 12 or 13, like really young, before he could compete in RLCS by a long shot, and then was in Morocco up until when he became old enough to play. But by that point, he was in Morocco, so he couldn't play, so he had to wait another year. And basically, ever since he's been in the RLCS, he's been maybe the best player, near the best player. Nass, air dribble resets. Nothing comes of it. That might be one of the reasons why we've heard a lot of people asking why Tempo's not on the top team. Air dribble bump. Nass gets the save. If apparently Jack has been talking about him positively, then I imagine there's lots of people out there who are expecting greatness from him, as I think Jack has a heavy influence over the perception in the scene. Not to say he's wrong about the high stocks for Tempo. Nice late roll. You do not need a reset in order to outplay a defender when you have really keen air rolls. Tempo just air rolls around the ball and uses it kind of like a flip to push this ball out ahead of Nass. Tempo. Air dribble, lean back, reset. Nass will dunk it away. And look at an open net that he will side flip on his third goal. Nass rolling underneath the ball to try and pre-flip this shot. Nass will now demo Tempo and waltz one in to regain the lead. Tempo had been controlling this game all the way through. Nass back on top. Fear plus Tempo equals Feetmo. No, we don't. I mean, we don't have to type that in chat. What about, wow, I really like what I've been seeing from Nass with that great flick. The comeback has been really strong. Tempo's a great player. I like the way he moves on the field. These are all things you could have typed. You chose to type Feer plus Tepmo equals Feetmo. Nass. Reset pre-flip. Puts it in the right side of the nets. Tempo, such a tough time reading a shot like that. Did his best to react, but it's too good. Tempo kickoff win in order to stop some of the bleeding. Tempo, for those of you guys who don't know, was originally a Dominus. A Dominus who wore a backwards hat every time he played. He has committed to switching to the Fennec and seems to have lost not a single bit of his skill. But Mr. Release Rope asks, do you think Fennec Tempo is better than Dominus? I'm not sure that they're much different, to be honest. What I'm worried about slightly is that it might be better for him to play Fennec because it might help people take him seriously more. I think you'd be silly to not have fully taken seriously Dominus Tempo with his backwards hats. But some part of me feels like the pro scene being only Octanes and Fennecs, except for like OCE, which has Torsos, means maybe people are thinking, I don't want to team with the Dominus. They shouldn't be thinking that. That would be a losing mindset, but you never know. Nass gonna make it 7-5 to get a bit of separation. Nush has decided to cash out. And that is the reason why we have Nass's game in the first place. Wave that shot. Nush was set to play Dr. Known. All the scheduling did not work out in order to have Nush play Dr. Known, which, as we've done in the past, means we re-roll. So I took Dr. Known out of the wheel, and Nush said if there's no Dr. Known in the wheel, I do not want to risk it. I want to cash out, which he was very close, if you guys remember, to cashing out anyways. And he barely got convinced to play in the first place. So instead of continuing to basically tease him and force him to keep playing, I'd let the man have his cash out. So he is cashed out. And now Nass will start a new run. Nush cashed out after 2, or as I say, Nass is starting a run. Technically, Nass and Tempo both started at the same time. It's just Nass was the last person left to get to play. He cashed out after 2 wins. He beats Moxie, and then he beat Raziers, and then he cashed out. Nush is off the wheel. He'll be off the wheel for a couple weeks. If this goes on longer and we still have prize pool left, guys, I'll be honest. I was thinking I was going to run out of prize pool too fast, especially when Drowley got picked right away. I thought, oh no, he's going to take all for me for all I'm worth, and then this is going to be over. I'm starting to have the reverse worries. It doesn't seem like people can get a few wins in a row. Even the best players are struggling to stay consistent. Game number 3. Nass wins the first kickoff and immediately is up in the air for an air dribble that is not directed at the nets. Tempo. Oh my goodness. He thought he had a read off of the crossbar. He did not. He got sent straight down. Nass had that read, cleared it away, and there's no Tempo in sight because of the fact he went flying. Nass is using the Adidas goal explosion that people were using at FIFA E, the World Cup last year. I don't know if they just gave it to those people. Did it like never go on the market or something? Tempo reset shot, I think, kind of worked as a protection of the ball. But FIFA E is starting up again. Nass will be representing Morocco. He is playing alongside Drowley and Skyrix, I think is his name. A bubble player Moroccan, I believe. I think he's definitely a strong player and clearly must be the next best available player for those guys to play with. And I imagine it's a very exciting opportunity for Skyrix to get to play alongside his fellow countrymen who are as good as these two. TempoH with another reset that doesn't connect and works out as a fake. Nass on the air dribble. Wave that shot into the crossbar. Nass now going to back off. Pre-jump TempoH's air dribble. He did win over the top. Does he have boost left over to finish it? He does! He falls on top of the ball and is able to keep it down. Nass, big dunk, great turn to immediately land on the wall, or on the ceiling, I should say, with his wheels. And then finds his way back down to force that bounce down. Nass to the ceiling reset shot. The one we've seen Moxie do a ton, and he sees TempoH in the air, who expected this to go all the way back down to the ground, I believe. You see very late boosting from TempoH, probably because he thought Nass would see his high counter, or high challenge, I should say, and look to counter by going low, but Nass does keep it high. Ceiling resets. This wave dash shot not nearly as spicy as the last one he did that converted. Now he's playing a bit of keep away. He has baited TempoH in, but TempoH maybe isn't so baited after all because he's getting a strong shot. Nass does make a save and misses a long shot. I think if you ask Nass, he felt like that was open, but wasn't able to shoot it from across the field. And now a 50 will get himself a goal. FIFA E is just standard 3v3. You're thinking of Esports World Cup, which was a conversion from Gamers 8, which was your 2v2, 1v1, and 3v3. They only kept that going for just a couple years. It is a fun format. And to a degree, I wish some tournament would run it again. Nass booming this one high. Trying to go so high that TempoH can't get up there to take it away, and he should have been a believer in TempoH, who absolutely could get up there to catch it, and had a follow-up that Nass didn't expect either. How does Morocco qualify? That's a good question. It's on Wikipedia right now. We went through and looked at it a bit more. I imagine TempoH played on the Danish team, but I don't know if they qualified. Does anybody know? I'm trying to remember. It was a very tough region to try and qualify through, even though there's a ton of spots. I cannot remember if the Danish squad made it. TempoH trying to roll in for a soft touch to start the air dribble, then gets a reset. Look at this flick. Nass denies it. Dude, there has been some really great shots, followed up by even better defense. And look at this flick from Nass to get this ball to the net in time. This does not go in without a really strong flick because TempoH had recovered, but Nass leaning back and throwing the diagonal backflip to launch it forward. Oh, Denmark didn't register. Kind of like Canada. The FIFA E World Cup, in order to use the FIFA name or whatever, they're reaching out to the official FIFA. Ooh, TempoH not able to save this. He shoots from far out, but apparently shoots fast enough that TempoH can't deny it. Apparently, they have to reach out to the official, like, actual football, aka soccer clubs, And some of them are really weird about the esport, it sounds like. So you just don't get Canada, and you just don't get some of the other top countries that should be involved and would absolutely be involved. Apparently Spain is not playing, right? I think Spain isn't playing because the Spanish FIFA Federation or whatever wanted to, like, took all their prize money or something and didn't pay for them to go. Literally just gave them jerseys. I don't know. It's so easy to just get out of the way of the players. Like, it doesn't even make sense to me at all. It sounds like you could literally just say, yeah, sure, you can go play. And then maybe get them jerseys, and that's it. That's all you have to do. I guess you should probably pay for them to go out there too, but if they get to keep their winnings, then I'm sure they wouldn't mind that much to go play them, like pay for to go out themselves. It's just insane what I've heard from some of the organizations. Nass should be getting this game 3, especially after that demo. It's okay the Spaniards took lands from SSA teams. That problem has been fixed. 2/3 for next season. Nass has blown out the 2 games that he's won. Ever since that first time chatter in chat said that Nass owns Tempo, he has been proven correct. Despite the fact that Tempo was able to win game number 1. I'm gonna run and get some water as this game ends. But I'm gonna stick around in case they maybe want to forfeit. Not to be toxic or anything, but I do think Tempo's chances of winning this one are a little bit low. All right, Tempo, we'll let it hit. I'm gonna grab some water as we get to game 4. Game number 4, Nass and Tempo. Nass has seemed to lock in. I refer to this as Nass's run because we started with him and then randomized his opponent. Technically, this is the first round. And Tempo has an opportunity to make it his run, not Nass's. That is, if he can find the magic he had in game number 1. Because right now, it's been all Nass. 10-5 for him in the last game. And the game before that, 10-5. Are we on track for another 10-5? Nass. Air dribble, reset, fake. Tempo fell for it. It'll bounce in. He drops himself a what a save. Let me give a little bit more credit to Nass, who says no, because I agree. Nass's setup is pretty good. He fakes like he's flicking there, and by the time Tempo could recognize that, I'm not sure there's anything he could do. Tempo wave dash 50 as he looks to try and get his opening goal of game number 4. Nass gonna chip it around him. Can he get a quick wave dash shot? No, he's not gonna need to because he can just carry it in and walk it with a 30 boost and a wave dash. Tempo. Chain dash escaping will make it 3-1. Needs to get going here if he wants to bring this one back. Nass slowing down into an air dribble, teed it up. Tempo says thank you. I'll take the freebie. and runs it the length of the field. Tempo. Hook shot off the post. Second chance here. Slams one into the ceiling and is able to counter the fact that Nass is going up there to stop him. Nass gives himself a what a save, but he was going up high, and Tempo's way of dealing with that and getting around it by hitting it so hard into the ceiling that it falls back down and underneath Nass's challenge. Now it's a tie game. Nass taking on the Diaz challenge off the back wall and falls just a little bit short. Everybody loves to say, anyone can do that. Why do you give Diaz any credits? It's so easy. And yet, I very rarely see people score with it. Especially not anywhere nearly as consistently as Diaz does. Ooh, nice roll. Crossbar down. Literally no one said that. They do. They do. I got put on blast, I think on Reddit, for calling it the Diaz challenge to dribble from the back wall to net. No bounce. And then he had the gall to pretend like everybody's hitting it all the time. And I said, I don't know, I watch a lot of 1v1s. Or maybe you guys watch even more than me. Type 1 in chat if you watch more 1v1s than me. Nass! 4-4. You guys just ripping replays all the time, watching the videos and then getting straight into the replays. You started doing it before Diaz. I don't know, the Mr. Fart Gargle challenge just doesn't quite hit as well. Nass up 5-4. Tempo, pretty aggressive challenge. Nass able to take advantage of that. Nass getting undercut. He tried to avoid the demo. Tempo tried to make sure he still didn't get a clean landing. Now he has to kind of escape Nass's bump. Nass didn't want a 50 here. Perfect respawn for him. Nass bump off the back wall and taps it in. Nice play from Tempo. It's not easy to maintain car control and get this kind of play when you're bumping someone. Oftentimes the bump throws you off as well, but Tempo is not thrown off at all. At Feer, did you finally completely replace Johnny? I don't think so. I think Johnny is just an off-season. That's why he hasn't been streaming. Nass. Air dribble resets. Gonna make it 6-5. Johnny is a YouTuber now. Let me tell you guys a bit of a secret. Johnny has always been a YouTuber. Kind of like how when I got started, I was also a YouTuber. You know, every stream was just a YouTube video with a little bit extra on the front and back. That is how the 1v1 show match scene was ran, basically. Basically as YouTube, but they also happened to be live. And I bet you the majority of his support from his content was coming from his YouTube as well. I've transitioned since quitting my other job to be more stream heavy as opposed to YouTube heavy. AKA, I need you guys to drop 5 gifted or I am gonna lose my job. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Tempo. Catch flick as he tries to keep this series going with 45 seconds. Tempo gets a demo. No boost to get the quick shot from. If he had even like 30, he could turn back and boom a shot that will get to the net before Nass recovers. Instead, he had to try and play off pads and 0. And he couldn't get the shot in. Nass now has pads to work with defensively, but doesn't matter. Tempo dunks it over the top of him to make it 6-6. YouTube watcher here, missed your YouTube only videos, not stream uploads. I mean, I'll get back to them, don't worry. But historically, all the best. Well, first off, let's wait this one out. Nass, air dribble bump. Tempo gets around it. Now onto an air dribble of his own. Reset way too hard. The question is, did he just lose the game with that? Looks like no, as he finds his way back. And now we'll try again. Certainly this is going to get grounded and go to overtime. No, maybe not. Tempo actually easily got it to the back wall. He just missed it wide. It will go overtime. Tempo might get first possession, but it's going to be awkward to actually get it going. So it's hard to tell who really has the advantage off this kickoff. Definitely a more neutral one. But if Tempo had gotten that 100, he'd be in a better spot. He just gave Nass the game. He needed that to respawn. If it did respawn, maybe he had something to make out of it, but it's like his brain was 100% relying on its being there. And certainly tapping the ball to Nass was not going to work. He says, GG's, good luck with your run. Nass will advance. Mr. Joyo!